Wow, hey, it's a good month for RPGs. Not only did I get three new ones, I also got a free review code for a port of a game I already owned. Yes, I've owned East Origin and the other East games on Steam for ages, as well as the Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky games, which are all really good. Falcom is not as well known as Atlas, but they're up there as far as making excellent games on a low budget. But yeah, East Origin is now out on PS4, and it's coming out on Vita in on I think May 30th. They said it was going to be
Something like
happening,
that.
and yeah, and they did confirm it's cross-buy, so if you buy the PS4 version, you get the Vita version when that comes out, and vice versa. So that's nice. This port also boasts a couple, like four new European languages that aren't in the Steam version. This is Spanish, French, German, and Italian, I think. Also, the front menu is actually widescreen, which is nice. For some reason, the Steam version didn't quite get around to that. They just sort of had like these 4 by 3 border designs going on in the menus, and why they had to do that, I don't know, but
The Ease games
whatever.
are weird on PC because actually I've tried to record several Ease games multiple times on PC, and the aspect ratios XSplit doesn't like them, so it makes it difficult to capture footage of. But I'm actually surprised that this is the first time that this game in particular is coming to PlayStation in general because it's been a PC game for a really long time, but other games that run it's 2006, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Uh, but other Ys games in the same engine, like Oath and Felghana, were on the PSP. So I don't know what the weight was, but you know,
There was also, wasn't there a PS2 version of East 6?
maybe I've got the Wikipedia page
Yes.
up, so I can check.
That's the one with the horrible, horrible voice acting, right?
Yes, in that horrible intro I showed you.
This is the one oddity that I can see with this port is that this cutscene, just this cutscene out of the ones I've played, is letterboxed in 4 by 3, and I have no idea why because none of the other cutscenes have this issue, and this cutscene plays in widescreen on the PC version, so I don't know. Oh, by the way, I should clarify. I did show the options menu. You do not select your language in the options. It's based on your system settings. So yeah,
Huh.
if you wanna, yeah, it's kind of inconvenient. Like if you don't necessarily want to set your system settings to French, but you want to read French or whatever.
So how familiar are you two guys with Ys 1 and 2? Any version, because there's like six.
I am pretty familiar. I've beaten East 1 Chronicles, but I have not gotten around to East 2 Chronicles.
Oh, okay.
I haven't beaten either, but I did play the first one. I started it. I had no idea what I was doing. Put it down for a couple of months. Came back to it, and then had quite a bit of fun once I finally finished. Once I finally realized you're not supposed to fight anything the first time you go through those planks. Just power through. Go to the
Yeah.
first town. Buy a decent sword and shield. Then you can fight.
The Ys 1 and 2. Well, the reason why I bring it up is that this game's a prequel to the original Ys, which is it's kind of weird how the series kind of does things. There is a continuity, but outside of the first two games, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like Adol goes to a place, he does a thing, and then he goes to a different place.
Goes
Pretty
to a place
much.
more like he shipwrecks at a place and gets trapped there by some mysterious weather phenomenon.
Yeah,
Uh,
every time actually. So you know, but this game, obviously being called Ys Origins, is set in the like before the events of the first game in particular. So there's a lot of callbacks to it, particularly in that the main location in this game is the final dungeon of the original Ys, which is
Yeah,
like
I remember.
half of your playthrough and your max level by the time you go in there. So Ys 1 is a bizarre game, but I did have a lot of fun playing it too. I also remember this tree being annoying to find when I was looking for it in the first time I played the game, but it's been forever since.
Well, I haven't played very far into that game, so let's avoid the spoilers. I mean, I knew about the tower. That was established pretty early on.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
The tower's the final dungeon. It's got like 30 floors or something ridiculous. And so instead of being half the game like in the first, it's the full game in this one.
Okay, is it true that the final boss in East 1 Dark Fact is a descendant of Hugo Fact? Because
Um,
I've heard that
e-
before.
e- yeah. So basically, there were. I'm kind of fuzzy on the lore because again, I haven't played through Ease One all the way in like 3 years, I think. But if I remember correctly, there were all these sages, and they stopped an evil thing a long time ago, which I think is this game. Again, I'm kind of fuzzy, but there's like. I don't think the fact ancestor was evil, but the descendant of fact in Ys 1 is evil and he's the final boss. There's actually not a lot of plot in the first Ys game. It's like a 1980 something MSX game the first time it comes out. There's like 12 ports of the original Ys. I think there's one on DS, there's one on the TurboGrafx, there's the Chronicles
PS2.
ports on Steam. Yeah. The Steam version is fantastic. I recommend that one wholeheartedly.
I think at this point you need a flow chart to keep track of all the different ports of all the different East games, because
Especially
there's a
3.
lot.
Yeah, there's ports of ports too, which never makes anything easy. It never makes anything
Yeah.
easier.
In any case, this is the first East game that's come out on PS4. East 8 is coming out later this year, though.
That's the newest one, right?
Yeah, Lacrimosa of Donna.
That's the newest one, yeah, and it's kind of awkward because East 7 is an obscure PSP game that practically no one's probably heard of. But hey, if you got a PS TV, there's something you can do with it.
Well, and I just found out the other day that Memories of Celceta is actually a remake of 4, which I had
Yeah.
no idea about.
Yeah, they don't. And Oath of Felghana is a remake of 3. That's my personal favorite in the series. Although I haven't. I only figured out when we were talking about doing this that 6 is run on the same engine as this and Oath of Felghana. So now I'm more interested in playing that right away. I was originally kind of wanting to play them in order, like at least chronological order, not the original versions because those are old. But I wanted to try 4, but it's on the Vita, and I really didn't feel like buying a Vita, so I held off on it. But I think I'm going to jump into 6 relatively soon because I love this gameplay style.
At this point, I think you could probably just get a PS TV for cheap. I mean, it's not compatible with everything, but at the price point you can find it at these days,
you can find a PS TV for less than $50 on Amazon.
Yeah, I know.
So probably cheaper used. So it's
Yeah,
not
it's a good budget way to play Vita games and PSP games if you don't mind playing them on your television.
I ended up getting a PS Vita earlier last year, and I recently got Oath and Felghana for it, and I was shocked to find out that there was voice acting in it.
Whoa! There's voice acting in the Vita version of Oath and
Yep.
Felghana.
Yes.
Is it bad? Is it as bad as I think it would be?
Okay, it ranges from cringy to pretty good.
Oh, okay. How good is?
I really like Chester's voice.
Oh, okay. How good is? Oh God, I'm blanking on his name. Adol's friend.
Dogi?
Dogi. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Because I really like him. And one of my favorite parts of the original Ys 1 is that when you are in this tower, you get like trapped at some point, and Dogi busts you out of the jail cell you get thrown into. Here's the thing: if you fall into the same trap, you'll go into a different jail cell, and Doki will keep busting you out. And there's an achievement in the game for getting him to bust you out of all of the possible jail cells. So yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Anyway, what is Ys? A lot of you might be asking this question right now because, well, it's not exactly the most well-known of good games. It is a very good game, though. If I were to describe the Ys games as anything, well, the first 2 games are, well, action RPGs that use the bump system where you run into enemies and attack automatically, and that's kind of awkward. But everything after that is sort of like a Metroidvania, except in 3D, which is actually, yeah, that's a good way to describe it, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. There's it's kind of like a mix of an RPG with heavy Metroidvania elements, I think, because there are dungeons that you go to and like a boss at the end, but you're encouraged to go back into old areas a lot when you get power-ups, because you're not just getting like better swords for attacks, you're also getting magic abilities that will let you like jump a farther gap or like solve a certain puzzle or something, which does make it feel very much like a Metroid game in many respects.
Although the main East series, which follows the adventures of Adol the Red, Adol Christen, this red-haired sword and shield user, this is more of a straight-up dungeon crawl.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, there's no towns or anything. You just go from floor to floor, hacking your way through
That's
monsters and killing the
admittedly
bosses.
why it took me so long to beat this game, because you go through this game as 3 different characters.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy it because, you know, there's a different way to get through a certain dungeon as you know, Unica, but you have to do it in a completely different way as Toll.
Yeah.
Do you have to beat all 3 characters to get like a special ending, or is it just a slightly different take on the experience?
Well, Toll is the only one who has the real final boss. He has basically
what?
he basically has the true story of the game.
That's a shame. Because I actually like playing as Unica better. I've only played like the first 2-3 hours of this, but I vastly prefer playing as Unica to Toll. She's just more fun to me. Although she has an axe, which is awesome.
And that's why I'm showing Unica. Unica's a pretty cool character. Kind of reminds me of Virginia Maxwell from Wild Arms 3, and anything that reminds me of Wild Arms 3 is aces in my book.
Yeah, honestly, I like playing as all three characters. But I mean, there's kind of a reason why Toll's story is the true story of the game. I won't really go into that, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's spoiler-tastic, Spoilerville. There's also, I think you can unlock the ability to play as Adol in a non-story capacity, kind of like Richter Belmont in Castlevania.
Yeah, and I'm guessing in that case he probably plays almost exactly like Othin Felgana and Ark of Napthasm.
you can actually choose which version of Adol you get to play as. You can choose Othin Felgana or
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that
is pretty cool. Yeah.
Very few games, I guess, would let you do that. Like, I'm trying to think of any other. Like, is it more than just like a costume swap? Is it gameplay too?
Yeah, it's gameplay. Basically, you can choose which version of Adol you play as.
That's awesome. That's really cool, I think.
Well, yeah, the main difference between the two is like what magic you get and what weapons you're using.
Yeah.
Because E6 has a specific set of weapons and skills attached to them.
Yeah. Othin Felgana being a remake of the it probably was MSX was probably the first version that game came out of on.
Yeah, East 3 was originally a side-scrolling action RPG in the vein of Link's Adventure, really.
Yeah, so, obviously it's going to be different gameplay-wise, although the game does translate very well to 3D. One of these days I will have to record it for BrainScratch, but that'll be whenever we get the other guys to play the series, and also call it E's instead of Y's, because I know people do that. I know people do that.
I remember when I was trying to find a copy of Memories in Celceta, and the guys at GameStop were like, Y's? I'm like, no, it's E's.
But it's not spelled E's, like E.
Well, I must say it's a very easy game to get into.
But not a very easy game to beat, because all of them are hard.
Oh yeah, especially the boss fights.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I had no trouble at all with E6 until I got to a very specific boss. Yes, I'm talking about the giant bee, for anyone who's actually played E6. That's the boss that separates the men from the boys, so to speak. It's the boss where no amount of grinding is going to save you.
It's strange though, because at least in E's 1 and 2, getting one level is the difference between having a boss be impossibly difficult and having it be a piece of cake. So
Oh yeah, it's more like in E6 there's this one particular boss that you have to fight to get something in the plains area about the midpoint of the game, and its movement patterns make it almost impossible to damage, and it deals a crapload of damage whenever it hits you as well. I'm over-leveled to everything around me. It's just that it takes so long to damage the thing that I can only get it down to about a third of its health before it kills me.
Is there any sort of projectile attack in E6? Because if I remember my E's 2 playthrough correctly, most of the bosses became like a
there's
shooter.
There's magic, but it takes a while to charge up, and
Yeah.
you have to hit enemies to charge it.
Huh.
So,
Yeah.
and the only way to reliably hit the bee with your sword, is to sort of do a jumping attack at it while it's level. But the thing is, it constantly rises into the air and flies around and shoots homing missiles at you. So a lot of it is a waiting and dodging game. Anyway, the gameplay is properly starting a whole 15 minutes in, and that's with the long ass intro cut out.
Thank you for cutting out that intro, because you have to sit through that 3 times if you decide to play through the
It's
whole
basically
game.
the
Yeah.
same each time, just minor differences in text, too.
Yeah. It's a pretty darn long intro. If there's one thing that Ys has to sort of deal with, is that Falcom is a low budget RPG maker, and that means they do a lot with relatively low production values. And as you can see, they've got some pretty damn good some pretty damn good art style going on with the sprites and everything. Ignore whatever video compression issues you might see while watching this. That's my capture card. It looks perfect on the television.
Yeah, these are very good-looking games. I will say, for 2006, this holds up incredibly well. And also, the music in pretty much every Ys game I've played is orgasmic. It's fantastic.
I absolutely
Yes, it's
agree
really
with you
great
there.
Yeah, great soundtracks.
Especially in their Legend of Heroes games.
Yeah.
I need to get to those one of these days.
Especially
but,
with Trails in the Sky the Third coming out, and then Trails of Cold Steel coming out later this year. 3, the third game.
yeah, but when
Are they releasing that on PS3?
PS4.
They're releasing it on PS4? Okay, good. I was gonna say, like, that's that was originally a PS3 game, right?
Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2 are on PS3 and PS Vita, and then Cold Steel 3 is moving to PS4.
Oh, you mean even in its original Japanese version?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So one really cool thing about Ys combat in these particular games, 6 Oath Felghana and this, is that you get an XP multiplier with every hit that you land on an enemy. So if you look at the XP diamond in the bottom left, it's like 1.72. If you can keep on nailing hits against enemies, you can eventually get essentially double the experience again for every foe you kill, as long as you can keep that combat up. And one thing about Ys already is that it's a very fast-paced game. There's a lot of, you're slashing stuff constantly, but it doesn't feel mindless though, because, well, for one, the enemies are often pretty hard to dodge, but two, you always want to get those hits in, because if you stay off of them for even like 2-3 seconds, you'll lose that encounter, and then you'll lose that combo, I should say, and you're now suddenly gaining experience much more slowly, and you're gonna want every level you can get, because again, this game is not easy. So
Yeah.
unless if you put it on like the very easiest mode, then it's manageable, but that's no fun.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, Ys is the kind of game that rewards you for being upfront and aggressive, no matter what character you're playing as. It's a very
except with Hugo, you can play it safe because he has a shield and he shoots projectiles. So
yeah, but you're still gonna want to be hitting things fast. to
yeah,
get that
yeah,
multiplier
I
up.
know, but
The thing that I'm trying to say is that the entire combat system feels very charming and arcadey.
Yeah, it's such a nice change of pace to go from something really methodical to this, where it feels as satisfying as any other RPG, but it's so much faster than even like a Dragon Quest in particular, but even something like one of the active time Final Fantasies. This is like, it's so adrenaline pumping, I think, something you don't normally get in this genre.
Yeah. And like even even the simpler games like Legend of Zelda tend to oops, I didn't make that jump. Woo. Yeah, Ted was talking about getting skills that you can use to cross gaps and stuff. Yeah, the wind skill for Unica is that skill. It's just the timing is a little weird.
Yeah, I remember there's a very similar skill in Oath and Felghana where you make like a little wind tornado around you.
it's almost the
it
same
can do
thing
the
as
same
Unica.
thing. Yeah, pretty much. I'd say Unica in general plays much more similarly to Adol in in Oath and Felghana than Toll. But again, I have to play 6 because that's one I haven't touched. I have not beaten this game. Unfortunately, I played it a little bit too soon after my Oath and Felghana playthrough, and I got a little burnt out. But I need to go back to this. But I haven't touched 6 at all, so that's really the one that I'm the most dumb about, really.
I will say this: the final boss, it totally kicked my ass. It took me about 3 to 4 tries just to beat him.
Oof.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the bosses in this game don't screw around. I haven't lost to a first boss in a game in a long time, but this game just barely managed to kill me. Not in this video. The first time I played it.
I hate the Silent Sands boss so much.
Oh yeah, the shell phone. I think that was actually an Ys 2 thing. I don't know if that was in the original. It's been a while. Like you could talk to people on the shell with the shell and like get hints at certain points in Ys 2, which was another thing that made it just a little bit more manageable than the original.
Well, you know what I like about that though? The phone doesn't ping you all the time.
Yeah.
You know, telling you what to do.
Yeah.
Like it would in other games.
Yeah, you're not getting calls on it forever. It's if you need help, you open up the phone, and you're not penalized for it. The game doesn't say, "Oh wow, what are you calling me?" It doesn't make fun of you or anything like that. It's just if you need help, you can ask for help. Which I appreciate. Thankfully, though, there's generally less backtracking in this one, so it's not so much about like thinking, "Okay, where's that item I missed?" in order to get through this puzzle. It's more, how do I get through this puzzle? And you get like usually enough of a nudge to push you in the right direction, pretty much.
Well, thankfully, if you need to backtrack, you can use the goddess statues to warp.
Oh yeah, that's very helpful. I think Oath and Felghana let you warp as well eventually. I don't remember if I have a feeling the first 2 games didn't really let you warp all that much, but again, it's been forever. I might be wrong. So, yeah.
I'm pretty sure Ys 6 let us warp, but if Ys 1 did, I didn't get far enough to unlock that.
Yeah, you don't really. It's kind of weird. The first 2 Ys games are actually very linear. After you get to a certain point in the game, you're not like going back and forth between an area and then a town, then back and forth. You just like keep on going straight after a while. It's very strange progression for an RPG like that, but it's part of what makes it so interesting to play, if a bit archaic, if that makes sense. It's something I've wanted to record it for a playthrough for forever, but my computer hates trying to record the Chronicles Plus version, so I've been out of luck for like literally years. I've been wanting to try to do that, and it just has not worked out.
Ah, man. Oh well, that stuff happens. One thing that I really, really like about Unica with this wind skill is that if you blast it in an opponent's face, you can just start wailing on them with your axe while the wind disc is still spinning, and just sort of double your combo that way.
Mm-hmm.
It is super satisfying doing it in a big
I really
group
like
of
all of
enemies, too.
Unica's skills, like way more than Hugo or Toll's skills. Honestly.
Yeah, she's really, really fun. Although that axe is like twice the size of her head, Jesus Christ. That's taking into account that her head is already twice the size of a normal human's in this form.
Given the RPG weapon to body ratio standards, that's actually not that bad. Like a 5-year-old could lift that axe, probably, if I had to guess. Although the fact that she uses it one-handed is pretty impressive, because axes are typically like a two-handed thing. So that's pretty. Like, her big insecurity is that she's the descendant of a certain sage who's known for magic, and she can't cast it, if I remember the story.
Yeah,
correctly.
she has no magic, so she trained her strength instead.
Yeah, honestly, all 3 characters go through quite a bit of insecurities and problems, and you get to watch them grow throughout their, journey up the tower, and I really like that.
It's interesting for an Ys game too, having the main character have something like an arc, because Adol is your standard silent protagonist. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't really have much of a personality, and his design is charming.
But yet, every time he travels somewhere, there's at least one girl who falls for him.
One of them's literally a god too, for the record. Like, it's all downhill from there. Like, cute village girls and whatnot. Like, there's literally a god who's in love with Adol, so I don't know why he even bothers going
the
for
same thing
anyone
pretty
else.
much happens in 8, from what I hear. and she has blue hair too.
Oh, okay, that has to be intentional then. Oh man.
And Adol and his maidens.
Yeah. There's actually a really funny line in Oath and Felghana where it's just like Dogi's talking about the girl in that game, and he's like, Elena. And he's like, I've got the childhood friend thing going for me too. Oh, whatever. We all know she's gonna fall in love with you anyway. So, Dogi's the best. I love him. I know that he appears every once in a while. He's not in every game, but he's a recurring character, and he's probably my favorite. So, yeah, I hope he ends up being playable one of these days. I think it's a relatively decent chance.
I believe he's playable in 7.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, 7 and 8 introduce this mechanic where you're not just playing as Adol, you've got party members along for the ride.
Yeah, and you can
switch control.
Yeah, you
freely.
can switch. Yeah, you could switch on the fly. So you have
cool.
but you have like 5+ playable characters that you can just switch to at any time.
Oh, that sounds
7
awesome.
and 8 are also the first fully 3D Ys games.
Yeah, these are pre-rendered, obviously. Like, it's actually the opposite of what a lot of PS1 games would do, where it was 3D characters in a 2D space. This is 2D characters in a 3D space.
A lot of PS1 games use this particular kind of visual style as well. You had stuff like Wild Arms 2, Xenogears. I'm trying to think. Final Fantasy Tactics, for that matter.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's just the first thing that comes to my mind is Resident Evil for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, that was because, well, whenever they tried to make realistic environments with PS1 graphics, they always wound up looking like ass.
This tower is tall, for the record. It's like, what?
Oh my
50
gosh.
stories?
Each character takes 6 to 8 hours to play through. Like it's a tall tower.
Yeah, that's honestly, like, 6 to 8 hours is probably going to be your length the first time through, for the tower in Ys 1 as well. Because that thing, I'm not joking. That thing is literally half of your gameplay time when you're playing that game. It's kind of obnoxious, actually.
Oh man,
I would have to agree with you there.
I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 that had these guys and that you talk to them there. I wonder if they actually have something written out there, or if it's just gibberish.
I know as Toll, you know how Toll can turn into a demon? When you actually turn into that demon, they'll actually talk to you in English.
I think, actually, those are runes. Those are actually letters.
Yeah, so it probably does translate into something, but I'm not sure. Well,
yeah, they don't talk to in gibberish if you use Toll's demon form and try talking to them.
It drew a heart.
Anyway, you want to get the Rotafruits to give to these guys so that they'll strengthen Unica's axe, apparently. That makes about as much sense as most of the stuff in Breath of the Wild.
But that they wanted to have the upgrading weapons, but it's kind of hard to do that without a shop, so they did what they could.
Yeah, the other games have a standard buy, sell, upgrade system.
Well, sometimes finding these guys is a requirement for getting through the dungeon.
Do you need specific leveled weapons in order to get to certain places, or is it that a different?
No, it's just that
thing?
they do different stuff in different areas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
they didn't want to make it just a straight dungeon crawl where you just go from floor to floor to floor, because that would get a little bit repetitive in a game like this. So they do add some other exploration elements, which is appreciated. It does help. It does help break up the scenery and what you're doing, because it would be very easy for this to get very repetitive. And thankfully, I don't feel like it does.
Yeah, it's just like a really in-depth exploration of the dungeon mechanics from 6 and Oath and Felghana.
Yeah.
I mean, something I really wish is that we could see these characters again, but I know that won't happen.
Well, Origin was relatively successful. Like, I know this isn't the most well-known series. It's pretty niche, all things considered. So I guess it would make sense that they want to stick with whatever recognizable character they have, which in this case is like Adol. But I think that I think the biggest barrier to seeing these characters again is that this game takes place 700 years before anything else happens.
Yeah.
And, once they're done with the tower, nothing else, they've already established that nothing else really happens. So, like, I think what they did with Adol in this mode, in this game, where it's just like a bonus playable character, it doesn't have to be canon, I think might be the best way to approach them. Like, you can unlock Unica and everybody else, like in some other game, just as a bonus playable character or whatnot. Not everything has to make sense. Like,
Yeah.
Like, the game I'm thinking of right off the top of my head is Portrait of Ruin, Castlevania. Like, there's a Richter and Maria mode in that game, and the only reason why is because they're a well-known duo. They have, like, nothing else to do with anything in that game's story. So...
Yeah, same in Symphony of the Night. Actually, there are two different Maria modes depending on which version of the game you're playing.
Oh, I remember these douchebags.
Oh man, she is so mean to Unica.
These are our obligatory anime rival characters. Say hi.
Why do you need 3 headbands? Also, why did you just give up putting on the third one or something?
He looks like the kind of guy who would have given up mid-headband wearing.
Oh, I honestly think this girl Epona's rivalry with Hugo is worse because she kind of develops a forced crush on him later on.
Ah.
Yeah.
Of course she does. Ye old anime tropes. Oh, well. Anyway, yeah, these are the bad guys because there's some, music playing in the background, and they have creepy weapons.
Also, their proportions are much more realistic, which means that they're evil.
And also later
I didn't
on,
notice that.
the bad guys talk in red text, so they're evil. Like when they turn into demons, they'll start talking in red text.
I don't remember them breaking out curse words in the PC version.
They do. They break out curse words.
Yeah.
Then that's just me not remembering.
Yeah, the English translation in this port is the same script that XC did in the PC port. So
okay, then that's just my memory failing. They don't usually go. From what I remember of Oath and Felghana, they didn't really have anything like that. So it must, that's how you know they're really evil. They swear. What jerks.
Well, they do it very rarely, which makes sense. I don't really think there's quite the same equivalence in Japanese.
Our Mr. Hedgie McHedgie in this game, he swears a little bit.
Alright. Well, it's time for a boss. These two can't be asked to kill me themselves, so they summon a demon. And this guy's kind of annoying for a first boss. Oh, annoying in a fun, challenging way, I mean, but...
The first boss is often one of the harder ones in any given Ys game. Like, once you figure out how bosses work, they're usually a little bit easier after the first one. Maybe not... I don't know if they're actually easier or if you just know how to deal with them a little bit better. It's one of those.
It's a combination of knowing how to deal with them a little bit better and having had time to out-level them without realizing it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this game is pretty solidly paced so that you're not really in danger of out-leveling anything unless you explicitly grind.
Yeah, did you guys ever feel the need to grind in this one? Because,
I kind of do at certain points. Like, if I get my ass kicked by a boss, I know I need to level grind, a little bit.
This one, on the other hand, is less a matter of level grinding and more a matter of, well, not getting hit like an idiot like I just did.
No, I mean like later bosses.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about this boss. This boss it's got a pretty simple pattern, or at least it seems to have a simple pattern until it starts breathing fire at you, and then it splits into two demons, and they both fly around as bats, and yeah, ow,
If I
yeah,
remember the first Ys game, the first boss in that was really the first meat wall of the game, where you really had to be like level 5 or 6 in order to beat it. And I believe that game's level cap is like 10 or 20. So
ah,
yeah. So again, like getting one level takes forever in that game, but it's also like usually enough that the boss goes from being way too hard to being either just right or actually a little bit too easy. So that's part of what makes the tower so hard is that in Ys 1 I should say is that you're done leveling up by the time you get in there. If you're not max level, you're probably close to max, and so you're not getting much stronger in terms of health or anything. There are armor upgrades you do find in there, but they're pretty spread out. So it's mostly a matter of your skill level increasing rather than your numbers being better than the other people's numbers.
yeah. Ah, man, my palms were sweating at this point. I'm like, oh god, if I take another hit, I might die. But I'm so close. I'm so close.
Wait until you get to Genocrest.
Ah, man.
And there's no like fake one here. They're both you can damage both of them.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to attack a specific one. If you can catch both of them in a single attack, like I did earlier on, then you can do some pretty good damage that way. But yeah, that is Ys Origin on PS4. It's a pretty solid port, except for that weird letterbox cutscene earlier on. I have no idea what's up with that.
Yeah, it looks like a very good port, but if you don't have a PS4, this game is on PC. It goes on sale on Steam all the
Yeah.
time, so you can usually all of the Ys games you can usually get for pretty cheap comes sale season, and they should be able to run on pretty much anything. They're not super demanding games. I recommend checking all of them out, pretty much.
I think the only major difference between the two ports is that this version doesn't have the persistent blood splatter when you kill the enemies, but honestly, you could take that or leave that. I personally find it visually distracting with all of the things that the enemies drop falling into the same spots and getting lost in all the blood pool. Ugh.
Yes, and you can turn that off in the PC version anyway, so it's not like it's even a
Yeah,
deal breaker there. So
yeah.